I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain. We bag enough. I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain. We bag enough. Poppin' tan model BC couldn't brag 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 enough. I guess I didn't swag enough. Stupid fruity pebble chain.
And welcome once again to another episode of the Horizon Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald, and joining me is my co-host Jim Sarro.
Hey, good morning, Bob. I'm super pumped now about basketball season. I've got one game in person under my belt. The popcorn still smells good. The sneak the floor great, and I'm ready to talk basketball.
All right. Well, Jim, of course, you can find on Twitter at Jim Sarro. We also have Kyle Rossi here, since obviously we're going to be talking about the women as well. So welcome, Kyle.
Howdy, hey. I do not have a lengthy comment to follow that up with.
All right. Well, you can find Kyle on basically every social account at Kyle HDRT. I'm pretty sure that's it. You can find us on the web at Horizon Roundtable. There you go. You can find us on the web at horizonroundtable.com. You can find links to all of our social sites and sites where podcasts are available at horizonroundtable.com/subscribe. Become a patron, patreon.com/horizonroundtable. We're going to have, obviously, we're going to be doing the early power rank. You'll have early access to the power rankings, and we'll have some extra stuff there too. I know at least one thing you'll get exclusively. There may be some other things. So Horizon Roundtable, patreon.com/Horizon Roundtable. And of course, you can still donate. horizonroundtable.com/donate. I guess we're gonna have to switch campaigns because we're not in preview week anymore. But that's what we're talking about today. And it's ironic because there's a couple of things that happened during the week besides preview week. One, that we actually had a game. It didn't count, but it was a game with Green Bay and Bradley, which of course was coincided with the retirement of Kiefer Sykes' jersey. And by the way, if you have not listened to our conversation with Kiefer Sykes, go listen to that. But also that came out literally within an hour of us recording are the first KenPom rankings. Kyle, got to ask, why don't they do all this nerdy shit for the women?
I've been saying, I've complained to you plenty privately too. It's not just the KenPom rankings, but any preview content. It just mostly doesn't exist for women's basketball. It's nuts. I know the next will have the next will do the Patriot League and the Ivy League, and you go, okay, maybe they'll do the Horizon League this year. Now because they have writers specific to those leagues, and they don't have Horizon League writers. So yeah, because we
took them all. That's why.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
If you're going to cover the Horizon League, you might as well come over here and really.
So we get left out of all these little fun discussion topics that the men's writers get.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start off with we're going to go in reverse order like we did last year. And fair warning to everybody listening to this, we're not sure how many episodes this is going to span like it did last year. We did not plan at all for last year. I'm ready for something. So strap in, fill up the tank. Make sure the kids have gone to the bathroom before you guys leave, because it might very well be a long ride. So let's start with Oakland, who we picked to finish last in the women's poll. And it's funny because we're going to talk about Oakland and we're going to talk about IU Indy, the two teams we picked to finish last. And I got to be honest with you, I do not. Once you get to a certain point in either of the two preseason polls, you got to wonder how wrong we're going to be at the end of these things. And Oakland kind of suffers from kind of the fact that it's pretty much a new team and they lost Manny Skorupski.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you what, I personally did not pick Oakland last. That was the rest of you guys. That's on you, but.
Oh, no. I know who I picked last, and it wasn't Oakland either.
Oh, what? Who'd you pick last?
Probably Wright State.
Okay, I think I had IU Indy last, but anyway, yeah, Oakland. I mean, Keisha Newell's
Yes,
going
I
to be
picked Wright
fantastic.
State last. I picked them
I, I
ninth.
I really like Oakland's upside. I think, you talk about IU Indy and they have, the system or whatever it's called. You guys know more about that than I do, but Oakland's also going to play a very up-tempo style. They have a lot of intriguing new additions, not the least of which is Angie Smith out of DePaul. I think there's a lot of upside to that team. I don't think a year one miracle is going to happen out of them, but I think they will surprise somebody somewhere down the road and definitely not finish last place to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there's the addition of a new head coach, Keisha Newell.
Yeah, got a chance to cover her introductory press conference. Just fantastic. I mean, she walks the walk of a college coach. She went around introducing herself to every single person there, even though she had no idea who I was, but got to talk to her for a little bit. Like I said, I think she's going to do
Kyle, whether
great
you
things
know
there.
it or not, everybody knows who you are.
I'm always surprised. Like I mean, I guess maybe I shouldn't be at this point, but sometimes, like I always joke about Sonny Wicks, at media day 2 years ago, and he just comes up to me. I'm like, I'm not even a men's wear. I can't do anything for you, man. But yeah, I really appreciate though that whatever recognition I've gained at this point. I mean, I don't take it for granted for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think yeah, I think the newness of everything over at Oakland, that's kind of, I mean, that's kind of why they suffered in our preseason poll. And by the way, it's the only preseason poll because apparently nobody else does these for the women.
Well, and the thing is, I complained about this a little
Sorry.
bit too, but the preseason polls are always an exercise in familiarity. When you have a lot of familiar pieces, and I think we did that with Green Bay, we did that a little bit with Detroit Mercy. You're always going to be rated pretty well. Turning over your whole roster, you're just going to assume they suck. That's just kind of how it goes with these things.
Yeah. By the way, I'd like to point out one additional thing because I got to segue to one bit of sad news we got the earlier this week because Keisha Newell played in the Horizon League with Loyola.
That's right. Yeah.
And of course, as we all know, Sister Jean Smith died at age 106 earlier in the week. Was a bit. I'm not. I'm sure you guys have not. I'm sure you guys have figured out I'm not a big religious guy. Sure, you figured that out by now. But yeah, Sister Jean was the best. I'm sure she forgave me for my trespasses when Loyola was still in the Horizon League and I was a giant malcontent mostly for the whole of the 2000s. So, but
I mean,
moving on.
But she got all that celebrity from the Final Four run, obviously. But man, she was just content to live her life in a certain way, and all the stories you see coming out now is just a wonderful human being.
I will say this because it was that run. It's funny enough it was that run, and yeah, because Jimmy Lemke and I joked about it for a while. That was kind of the impetus to reboot the podcast because we were gone for like a year and a half or so. And then we decided to bring it back because reasons.
Well, didn't Jimmy say that he went up and said hi to her before every game where they were playing Loyola?
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
She remembered him every time. I mean, why would she remember some random giant guy from Milwaukee? I don't know, but she did.
I mean, it was Jimmy, so entirely possible. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about how we picked IU Indy last. The IU Indy men last. Again, I think they also suffer from they also suffer from that newness and the fact that, again, and I keep belaboring this, is the fact that it's a brand new team again for the third year in a row with a new coach for the third year in a row. And just like the Oakland women, this is not a team that I necessarily expect to finish last. In fact, I actually did not pick them to finish last. I actually picked them to finish eighth, a little higher up. But yeah, but the rest of our collective consensus was, yep, you're gonna finish last. So This is again. I think this one is going to be. This one is probably going to be more us probably being wrong. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think with IU Indy, Bob, the factors that I looked at, I picked them ninth in the league, and I like Ben Howlett in the way that he came across about in what he's about as a coach, and obviously he has a track record of success. That's a guy that just seems like he eats, sleeps, and lives basketball, and that's all he's thinking about. And I like guys like that who are in charge of the program. So I've rated him a little higher than last because of Howlett. But one thing that really concerns me with that style of basketball that they're talking about playing, I can't say I've watched more than highlights of West Liberty, but I looked it up in the MEC. They were 8th out of 11 in rebounding. And it's okay to play with a bunch of small guys in Division II because there aren't a lot of functional big guys.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to be in for a rude awakening when they get into the Horizon League play, where you have a lot of bigger guys who can also guard on the perimeter. Like you look at Wright State, obviously not expected to be a great team, but they had like 3 guys that will easily be able to match up with an IU Indy and out rebound IU Indy would be my expectation. And so if you can't close out possessions and you can't get, defensive stops or, can't keep the other team off the offensive glass, this is stuff I know firsthand from watching Green Bay last year. You are going to be in for a long season. And I also know from watching in the RP40 era with Link Garner, that up-tempo offense with no defense and no rebounding led to middle of the pack once he finally had his guys. So this is a team that I think will get better, in the future. But year one, I don't think they're going to be more than a tough team that's near the bottom of the standings.
And Ken Palm agreed with you because they got Ken Palm's initial ranking of IUND is 355.
Woof.
Yeah, the Ken Palm was not kind to the Horizon League. I think the highest was Youngstown State at 171, and it just goes downhill from there. Yeah. Ken Palm basically rates us as mediocre. Mediocre to bad. But one of the things I do like, to your point, I think one of the things I do like about this, about what Ben Howlett is trying to do is, he's definitely got pieces. Theoretically, in situations where it's not going to matter, like potentially the Horizon League, where maybe the Horizon League schedule, where I think they'll have enough games under their belt to really figure out what works in the system in Division I and what doesn't. Well, it's not going to be boring because they're probably going to score in bunches for sure. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what defense is going to look like for them, though. That's a big thing for me, though. I'm like trying to figure out. Okay.
And against the teams that don't play defense in this league and just want to score, like you think of like a Fort Wayne game with IU Indy, I could see an IU Indy winning that, even though Fort Wayne's picked higher on paper. But it's the teams that are going to have some functional 6-7 guys that can guard on the perimeter that I think they're going to struggle. So, the modern Horizon League big man is probably going to chew up IU Indy a little bit. So, but yeah, defense is definitely a concern, and when you think about what wins championships, everyone says defense wins championships. So we'll see what happens here.
That is true. So moving on from the IUND men to the IUND women, and I feel like this one is going to be a make or break year for Kate Bruce.
And
a make or break year where she loses her top scorer.
Yeah,
among other things.
I mean, and Kate Bruce said at media day, she's like, you know what, maybe we were a little bit too dependent on Katie Davidson, and there's a little bit of validity to that, but this is just a team that I'm not sure what they added that's going to really make up for that. They have Nevaeh Foster still, and she's one of the underrated players in the league, in my opinion. She was first team All-State in Indiana, which takes some doing back in her high school days.
Mm-hmm.
But, they added Ariana Williams out of Penn State, who didn't play a ton for the Nittany Lions, but she's going to be a big part of what they're doing. These 3 transferred from Ball State. They didn't play it. Ball State's the MAC champion, but they didn't play a ton at Ball State. So you have this kind of mishmash of incoming transfers and freshmen, none of which have really proven a whole lot. So Yeah, I don't know. There's very potentially something that I'm missing, but like I said before with preseason rankings, when something's unknown, you tend to just tank them, and that's kind of where IU Indy's at right now.
Well, I think again, IU Indy and it kind of suffers from the fact that there are teams above them that are, because when you look at the women's side of the ledger, there are enough teams in the Horizon League where if you don't have everything, if you're not firing on all cylinders, you're going to get hurt. And we saw
Yeah.
that last year. We saw that last year with with Milwaukee.
Oh, sure.
And
Look at I'd say Oakland's another good example. With they had
yeah,
Skorupski and Macy Smith. Those are two of the maybe the two of the top 10 guards in the league, and they were still a bad team.
yeah, exactly. And that therein lies the issue because then you have to get into and IU Indy kind of has it seems like they have struggled since the departure of Austin Parkinson.
Yeah.
And that was how long ago?
It
And
was,
it's just
geez, that
been
was
still,
after 22 was when he left.
yeah. So we're kind of in year three of them kind of struggling,
Yeah.
and not for lack of trying either, because
And you
there've
remember,
been
I mean, you remember Luke Bossa when he first took that job and handed Kate Bruce an extension, God,
he
like in his
did,
second week on the job. So he
yeah,
sees something there that maybe hasn't played out on the court yet. And we'll see. Like you said, I really do think this is the sort of make or break year for Kate Bruce there.
yeah. I agree, and it's gonna. I don't know, man.
I
Seems
don't
like
know. I
that
don't
one's
know.
gonna be a little messy.
I don't know either. Yeah, IU Indy's definitely kind of a shrug, and we'll see what happens kind of situation to me.
Yeah, very true. So, IU Indy fans, those were your two teams. I guess you can stop listening now. I'd rather you didn't, but I mean, we've got other teams. It's weird how the schedule for preview week kind of situated itself because um we had schools, both teams for the for school, both schools teams on a couple of different occasions. We were able to drop them on individual days because the IU Indy teams and the Wright State teams all dropped one day, and then the Northern Kentucky and Detroit Mercy and Northern Kentucky teams another day, and the Youngstown State and the Purdue Fort Wayne ones. It was just weird how that worked, but it
And
actually
it seems like there are a couple of those every year. There may be more than usual this year, but it seems like there are
there
at
were
least one or two every year.
there were six of them. There were
Six?
six teams.
Were there really six? I didn't count.
Yeah, IU
Huh.
Indy, Wright State, Northern Kentucky, Detroit Mercy, Youngstown State, and Purdue Fort Wayne. All of
Jeez.
yeah, I know. So it's like, hey, if you're a fan of one of these schools, congratulations. You get when we drop all of your article previews, they're all going to be on one day, and then from what it looks like, clearly you can ignore the rest of the week. I'd rather you didn't do that, but some of you took that way too seriously this year.
Kyle,
So
Kyle, now you know why I bring a strong opening statement to the monologue at the beginning because IU Indy fans, I want them to hear my best material. Period.
absolutely, because if this thing spans 3 episodes like it did last year, you think you're going to listen to any of that? No.
Oh God, I forgot about that whole thing.
Why do you think I was
like
I don't know how long it's going to last?
my girlfriend at the time, I was dating someone when we did that last year, and she like literally sent me DoorDash in the middle of that because I was getting hungry, and I was like kind of texting her and like, can you help me out a little bit?
Oh, this is yeah. So, yeah, this is. So now we got the IU Indy teams out of the way. Let's get the Wright State teams out of the way now. All right, let's start with the IU the Wright State men. Who we had picked to finish 10th. And by the way, I'd like to point out, and I just thought of this because the Horizon League did something I didn't think they were going to do this week and drop their preseason poll. They usually do it a week after we do. Like, why? Like, I was like, yeah. So yeah, after the second they dropped their preseason rankings, we didn't matter anymore. I hate that, but not our fault. sort of. But yeah, yeah, because the official poll had IU Indy as 10th, um, for the IU Indy men, for the IU Indy women. I can't believe we got to look this up. Should know this. They actually also so yeah, so for the preseason poll, their official poll and our preseason poll, right now we're matched up on the women's side. They picked Oakland last. They picked IU Indy 10th. And this is where things deviate, because apparently we are the people who pick Wright State, who picked specifically the Wright State men the lowest, near as I can tell, because we picked them 10th. I feel like I'm a bad influence on our staff, because it seems like they went around the same direction that I did. So
I'm right there with the pick on this one. I had Wright State 10th in my personal rankings. And as you alluded to, Bob, that is a deviation from the official Horizon League poll that came out. I think, from my perspective, the team last year, they went 8-12 in league play. They were an offensive oriented team. Yeah. Clearly, with what they have brought in, with Brian Atumnu and Sam Alamatu. I hope I'm saying those names correctly. And then you keep a guy like Michael Amari Banks. Yeah, this is not. Thank God I don't do play-by-play, because I would not be able to keep up with these guys. But they have a roster that looks like a complete overcorrection from last year. Now, Logan Woods and Solomon Callahan, they both were very good three-point shooters, but that is when they are the second, third, fourth option on the floor. They are going to be leading role players at the guard position. So now we're going to see, can they be 46 and 37% three-point shooters when the focus is on them and not a Keaton Norris or an Alex Huberts? So that's really the concern that I had with looking at this team, is that they weren't that good when they were playing offense. Only now they're going to only be able to, looks like, play a lot of defense and rebound, and we don't know where the offense is going to come from. And the guys that they brought in don't have a history of being able to make perimeter shots. So it's not like you could look at them and say, well, if we give them 8 more minutes a game, they'll make this many more shots, or they're already a 40% shooter. We just need to get them more volume. None of that. Like this is a team that I think is going to just be pesky and hard to beat. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily love the pieces that they have.
What I find interesting about this, because we talked to Chris Collins last episode about where the offense is coming from, where the offense is going to coming from, and I think he was kind of scratching his head as if about kind of where that's coming from too. But Wright State has kind of the same problem that IU Indy has, in that their size, whatever size they had with Brandon Knoll, is gone. It's basically a bunch of six. Yeah, the guys up front are basically a bunch of 6'7" guys, and I don't know. To your point about IU Indy, where they have the same problem, where they got a bunch of 6'7" guys, Wright State has that problem too. But not only do they have that problem, they have the problem of, unlike IU Indy, you're not sure where the offense is coming from.
Yeah, well, Wright State, at least the guys that they have, they're 6'7" and built like a brick house, or Alamantu is 6'5" and built like a brick house, and are proven D1 rebounders. I don't think that IU Indy has the physical girth that some of these guys are going to have, even if they're at the same height. And those guys, are probably going to be able to still defend. Or you think of like Andre Holden, another guy with some decent size that's still going to be able to defend. But yeah, I think with the Wright State. The other thing that I was looking at when I looked at their roster, 5 of their 13 players are freshmen. So there's really no room for error too. Like, I just think that old guys, multi-talented older guys is where basketball's at. And I'm not seeing that for Wright State.
I think that was my other concern, is that this team is so young compared to the rest of the conference. That, outside of the Tumnu and Alamatu and your Amari Bay, you got a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. And I think that's going to be problematic on that front as well for them. I mean, maybe they gel together a little better and they outperform, but again, in proportion to the rest of the Horizon League, I kind of just don't see it. So, All right. Now that we've talked about the Wright State men, let's talk about the Wright State women. And yeah, there's another. I hope you guys are going to do something this year. Kind of the situations with Carrie Hoffman and her team.
I think that the thing that's tough with Kerry Hoffman is, I mean, it was 2 years ago. They had a pretty good team. They went to the Horizon League semifinals.
Yeah.
Then they're like, okay, it took a little while, but they're on their way. Then last year, oh God, well, I don't even remember how they started last year. They were like 2-14 at one point or something like that.
Oh, they were, yeah. I mean, it was like
they had a 10-game losing streak in there. They were abysmal and kind of got it turned around. I think they finished 10-10 or something like that. Maya State went ham. She was grabbing 20 rebounds every game and just, obviously they lose her. So that's going to be a concern. But I think for Wright State, they added Breezy Williams out of Bryant, and that's, I think, a nice addition for them because they really just lacked a primary ball handler last year. They were having Claire Henson do it a lot, and Claire Henson's good at a lot of things. That's not really where she's the best fit for that team, but you kind of hope that their perimeter kind of slots into place after that. They're going to need, some of their returning interior players to step up a little bit, but they've always been a very guard heavy team. They, whenever they've played Cleveland State, they'll just do straight up 5 out and chuck threes all game. And
I mean, it's not a bad, it's probably, that's with Cleveland State, that's probably not a bad strategy.
Those games are always
not a good one, but it's not a bad one either.
They'd go down, chuck a 3. Cleveland State go the other way, walk down the middle of the floor and, get an easy bucket.
Yeah.
And you just kind of hope that they get enough 2s to counteract their 3s. Those games are always nuts to watch. But I think I think things can slide a little bit better for them. I'm a little concerned that they didn't necessarily add enough to improve a whole lot. But there's hope there. I trust Kerry Hoffman a little bit.
By the way, they were 7-13 in the league. I think Robert Morris was 10-10. We'll talk about them later. But
I thought Wright State finished they finished
much better.
I think they were 500 over their last 16 games or something like that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but yeah. But again, the reason they were doing that was just because of Amaya State's blow up, and she's gone now. So you got to figure something else out.
I hope they do, because this is and Hoffman's kind of in the same. I think Hoffman's in the same, maybe in the same situation as Kate Bruce is, but also I also seem to recall that before Bob Grant left, Hoffman got an extension too.
Yeah, and I will say with Kerry Hoffman, I mean, again, she did go to the conference semifinals. She did have.
Yeah.
I can't remember if they won 20 games that year. She has at least had a good season there. IU Indy really hasn't been on that level yet.
That is very true. Yeah, because I think it was, I want to say it was, I can't remember if it was, it was last year. They were 18-15 last year, and they weren't bad. I mean, they did, especially compared to the rest of the conference. But yeah, you are, to your point, it's there's got to be some theoretically there needs to be some turnaround, and they gotta hope for some. They gotta hope to get all the new pieces integrated. So that's gonna be a thing.
It's not every coach is necessarily a win now type of situation, but you still year to year you still want to be seeing some sort of progression towards that final goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. The Wright State has to just go nuts and end up in Indy and playing for the conference title or anything like that, but some sort of progress over last year, I think, will be enough for them.
Well, I think the Horizon League voters agreed, because I think they picked the women 8th, I believe. I mean,
I
think we picked them 9th, so it's like 8th, 9th. I mean, that's kind of the range, especially when you consider kind of the rest of the conference, because I had a hell of a time trying to figure out, after Green Bay and Cleveland State, I had a hell of a time Green Bay, Cleveland State, and probably Robert Morris. I had a hell of a time.
And until last year, when Purdue Fort Wayne kind of joined that and made it a top 3, that 3rd through 8th was just an absolute fucking mess every year pretty much. And it'll probably be again this year.
Oh, it will be this year too, guaranteed. All right. So Jim, we bucked the trend of everybody. We didn't pick We didn't pick Green Bay last. We didn't pick the Green Bay men last, in spite of everybody, including the official poll, picking them last. We picked them ninth, but did not pick them last.
Well, I think with the Green Bay pick of last, it's just like the easiest pick to make if you're making preseason predictions. At the end of the day, this team comes down to probably one major thing right out of the gates, and that's the head coach. Like I've gotten to talk to Doug a few times. I really enjoy talking to Doug. He's super helpful, super insightful. Just really fun to talk to. I personally do believe that Doug will get this going, but it's just the easiest thing to look at and be like, look, this guy's a TV guy. He's still doing TV. They sucked last year. Until proven otherwise, they're going to suck this year. But the roster, I think, is significantly upgraded. And we got to see that last night when they were on the court against a very good Missouri Valley team. They went through a period where they looked like last year's Green Bay team. And then
like the entire first half.
The second half of the first. It was the second half of the first half. Like it was 8 minutes of good basketball there, and then it was 12 minutes of dog shit. And then in the second half, they kind of got themselves together. They focused in on the lineup, and then really made a comeback and kind of gave Bradley, more than people thought they would. It'd be my comment. The other thing I look at with Green Bay, I personally picked them fifth. I believe in their guards. And we got to see. Like Rob Stroud last night had a monster game. CJ O'Hara, Dontrell Hewlett. That's three guys that are like the same size, that are built strong, that can switch, but also can get to the hoop. I really like that kind of action for them. You mix that in with a Preston Riedinger, who's a tough defender and can knock down some open shots. And then I personally had LeBron Thomas as third team or second team all conference. I think he's going to have a big year. He's got great size. And once he kind of gets into the D1 world, I feel like they're going to be good. The issue for Green Bay is still their size. They're three tall guys. They have three guys 6'8" or taller. None of them did anything for him last night. Now, granted, Bradley, and I was at the game. I sat on the court. Bradley,
they're like 7 footers, man. Those guys are monsters.
And not just 7 feet tall. I think that both of those players that, one of their parents was at least an oak tree or something thicker. I mean, those dudes were big. I mean, even their guards, they were jacked. These guys were jacked. Their legs were big. Their arms were big. I mean, these guys have not missed a workout ever. And it was noticeable. So anyway, that's where I'm at with Green Bay. Easy pick to pick last. I got them higher. And I'm glad that our voters have them a little bit higher because they're objectively looking and saying, you know what, maybe Doug does know what he's doing. And there'll be enough for them to not suck.
One of the things that I did notice from the game, and I was thinking this was going to happen in the offseason, and it looks like this is coming to fruition, is the fact that Marcus Hall is not going to spend his entire playing career at the 5, where he's way too undersized for that. At the 4, yes, it's absolutely where he belongs. It looked, I'm sure, everybody's got some rust to knock out, but Marcus Hall at the 4 looked very much more natural than in years past. One of the things that I also noticed too, you mentioned LeBron Thomas, is that it looks like he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy called upon to run the point, as opposed to Rudy, who is playing more of a 2 this year. I think the other thing, to your point though, rebounding. I think rebounding is going to be still a question mark, although I should point out, even with the trees that Bradley had, Green Bay was kind of able to hold their own on the glass, which is something we definitely did not see last year.
They were fine until the last minute and a half of the game. They gave up 4 straight offensive rebounds, and the rebounding margin went from -2 to -6. Now, I mean, that's big money time, and they did not deliver. And when they finally got the ball back, they had probably their worst offensive set of the day. So they really weren't ready for the end of the game, which isn't going to give anybody, who's worried about Doug coaching his team. They're going to point to that and be like, well, when it really mattered, you guys weren't any different. But I think it's clear, like, they're building up to something, and, not necessarily working on things that they didn't need to work on, like, end of the game situations yet. Like, to Doug's point in the post-game press conference, they hadn't put in their double team yet on the post, so they just kind of lived with going man on man against those big guys. And there was a couple times last night that Ahmet, the number 14 for Bradley, I mean, he wanted to get to his left shoulder, and they forced him to his right shoulder. He just happened to make that too, but they stood up to him, with 6-8 inches of difference in height and made him go away from the way he wanted to go. So there's some signs of fight there that I'm optimistic about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, indeed. All right. So we got, so Kyle, you did the preview for the Milwaukee women.
I did.
And Milwaukee, we had them picked 8th. Which is an improvement, because they were I had to double check. It's like they finished last. Yes, they finished last year. So yeah, so us in the official poll had them kind of switched. The official poll had them 9th. We got them 8th, and Milwaukee does have some pieces to fill, but they do definitely have some players coming back that are definitely going to help them kind of dig out of the basement this time.
And when I talked to Kyle Reckless for this preview, like basically the first thing that she mentioned to me was the fact that they lost 7 games by 1 possession in overtime last year, another 5 by 2 possessions, and I had to pull up this line for my preview to read it, but she estimates that they were 17 possessions away from winning 21 games. And I mean, whether that's industrial grade copium or not, I don't know, but they may not have been quite as far off as they looked at times last year.
And that's why I had to double check to see where they were in the standings, because it seemed like they were doing better. I thought they did a lot better than they actually did. So I'm kind of with her on this one, because I'm like, oh, really? You guys did finish last? Oh yeah, I guess you did.
Yeah, I've been a Sophia Rampoula acolyte since her high school days. I was actually watching Paulina Hernandez games, and she was a Cleveland State commit at the time. And there was one game where Union Grove and Sophia just absolutely lit them up, and I've kind of just been a fan of hers ever since then. But Coach Reckless tells me that she's been just super. She's been in the gym. She cares about nutrition now. She cares about playing defense now. That's always the thing, right? If there's a player that you think should be playing and isn't playing, it's always their defense, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
And she didn't say that she was Kendall Need, but she said she has a Kendall Need type body now. So, I think she has the skill to maybe live up to being that kind of player. Milwaukee always going to be very, very strong in the front court. Joy Buwalda and Peyton Reckless, the coach's daughter, of course, are both back. If CeCe McNair is going to play a big role for them as well. So I think, and she said they're going to be a little more up tempo this year. They're not going to be that plotting Milwaukee team that that either wins or loses games 45-42 anymore. So they're going to try and run a little bit on you, but they're still just going to be a very physical team that's going to kind of try and mash you to death a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So then we jump over to the Northern Kentucky men. I'm not as high on them as apparently the rest of us are. We've got them finishing 8th. And yeah, this is a team I don't know. This is a team's got, Darren Horn's got his work cut out for him this year. Because usually he's got a core of guys that he carries over from the previous season. He kind of doesn't have that this year. So we're basically looking at a lot of new faces outside of LJ Wells and Dan Goresger.
Well, and Bob, to your point, like he has some guys back in the 2 that you mentioned that are, solid players, but those aren't stars. Like he's always been returning stars. You've had Warwick and Vincent, and he just always had the top tier players in the league. And the problem that people are probably having with this roster this year is there's no clear cut who's the man, like who's the guy that is going to be able to get you some hoops and help them get in big moments. And I've seen it like firsthand when they had Warwick. I mean, 2 years ago, Green Bay had them on the ropes at home on Valentine's Day, and Warwick hadn't made a bucket all game, and he made the game-winning basket. Like they don't, who's the guy that's going to do that for them this year is probably the concern. I did personally pick them higher than where we had them. I picked them 6th in the league. I actually had my first bad pick. Also, I put Cale Robinson as 3rd team all conference, and I took note of Darren Horn did not mention him at the Horizon League media day. So I'm like, that's not a good sign for my pick.
Whoops.
Yeah, my bad. So, we'll have to have a whiff here or there. And that was my whiff. I was just trying to figure out, like, at the end of the day, this is a team that's all about defense. And I'm still going to side with Darren Horn's going to get this team to play, high level defense. And until proven otherwise, like last year, they weren't great, but they were, 11-9 in league play. Darren Horn is 75-41 in league play overall. It's really hard to side against him. So if somebody's going to step up, I just don't know who. And I'm not. And at the end of the day, even if this is a guy that I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to. That's why I picked him a little bit higher. But on paper, if it wasn't Darren Horn, this would probably be the team most people would pick last on paper.
So, and by the way, the official poll agreed with you on the 6th place finish. And incidentally, I think one of the things that I looked at, Cale Robinson isn't a bad. The official poll had Goretzka as an all league second team, so they apparently the expectation around the league is there's going to be some jump there for him. I think the concern with him is going to be the consistency, because remember, we didn't see a lot of Dan Goretzka in the beginning of the season. We saw a lot more of him at the end of the season, and then he was just shot out of a cannon most of the time. But he did still have his moments where he still had his kind of he still had his down moments even during that hot streak. I think as far as kind of the most solid guy is going to be LJ Wells. I actually, Cale Robinson, probably not. I actually look to Donovan O'Day. That's the guy I'm looking for with Northern Kentucky to come in and do it and be kind of that foundational. And apparently some of our voters thought that he was a little higher up than Goretzka was as far as expectations are concerned. I think the other thing too I think the other thing too, and this is also this is something that Brady Labor brought up last episode, is there's actually a couple of guys they just got in who, like the kid from Australia, Ethan Elliott, who's one of the. And Jim, he sounds like he has some experience outside of college basketball, because he was in that NBL 1 league in Australia, so might have a little bit of Jonathan Levy there vibe there, but because I guess there was some issues because he didn't get a chance to be on campus this summer. Because I guess there was, so he's kind of had to jump in with both feet. But to your point, I think like I said, Donovan O'Day, I think the guy from Fullerton, I think he suffers from the fact that apparently everybody has been clowning on Fullerton for a while.
And I stayed away from him in my picks. I listened to what Rocco Miller, who was a guest a couple weeks ago, and he kind of said he wasn't sure if that would be additive. And there's a guy that covers California college basketball way more than I do. If I'm watching a Fullerton game, it's probably because I am, like alone in my thoughts on the couch after having a bad day or something. So like I took that. I also took note. I believe that Darren Horn specifically spotlighted Sean Nelson on media day. So at the end of the day, though, the problem here is like there doesn't seem to be, at least for voters, like there doesn't seem to be a lot of great size on this roster, and there's just a lot of unknowns with who actually is going to be the guy. But defense, Darren Horn. And we'll just see what he can pull together. He's a guy that historically those teams do get better as the season goes along. So hopefully for NKU fans, they have a little bit of that. But yeah, I don't think this is a team we'll be seeing in Indianapolis necessarily.
That brings me to my next question. If that does not happen, what happens to Darren Horn? I mean, he had a down year last year, which we say down year, he was still above 500, but still, and that was with kind of a pretty good core of guys. Now he's got to start over. Did they get the benefit? Does he get the benefit of the doubt?
He definitely gets the benefit of the doubt, and obviously with his salary being near the top of the league, I mean, there's got to be something to some significant dollars to make a move. Honestly, and I know it's a little bit of a taboo topic, but with some of the rumors that were floating around with Northern Kentucky financials, is this a guy that maybe looks to do something else before maybe they're looking to do something else with him? But I don't think that's going to be the case. Personally, I think they're going to be mid-tier Horizon League. So we'll see.
All right. Well, you know what? I think this is a good stopping point. So Northern Kentucky fans, guess what? You have to listen to the next episode because we split them up. So next episode, we're going to start with the Northern Kentucky women and work our way down until and we're just going to I think we dropped all 3 episodes all at once. So you sickos can all listen to these all at once. I know I'm going to. So HorizonRoundtable.com, that is where all of our podcast episodes and articles are, especially preview week. They're there. They're all there now, guys. Some of you may have missed that, even though we mentioned it 40 million times, that it's preview week. HorizonRoundtable.com. You can pull up all our episodes wherever podcasts are available. You can pull us up on your Amazon or Google devices. So just listen to the next episode. It's going to be the very next one in the sequence. So until then, thank you all for listening.